Hey guys, today is the start of a new unit. We're going to be doing perimeter and area of all sorts of different shapes. I feel like you guys might have learned some of this back in your elementary, middle school days. But I want you to focus on it like you don't remember it. Because to be honest with you, there's a good amount of you who don't remember it. And this unit can be a little rough on some people on even the things that they think they know how to do. So let's have a conversation about perimeter. So a lot of times people will tell me that perimeter is the area around a shape, and you're kind of right. It's the distance around the shape of the polygon. Distance around. So we've talked several times. I know you know that when I find the perimeter, I add up all the sides. So my perimeter here is going to be A plus B plus C plus D. And we just do the same thing for any old shape. Now, circumference is just a fancy way of saying perimeter, but we just use it for a circle. Circles are super special. That's why it gets its own name. Perimeter of circle. Forgot the of. There we go. Now, I know some of you guys have learned that, cherry pie, delicious apple pie R2 or something like that. I can never remember. All I remember is that I just get excited about pie and then I forget that I'm talking about math. So circumference equals, oopsies, pi times the diameter. So D is diameter. If you remember from back in maybe middle school, that guy that goes all the way across, that is your diameter. A lot of times, all you'll get, though, is just this length. And this length that has the R on it, that R stands for radius. So circumference equals pi times the diameter, or if we multiply that radius by 2, we get our diameter. So that's how we get that 2 pi r. So these are the exact same equations, just one uses diameter, one uses radius. So make sure you're careful about what you have in your shape. Okay, now let's look at the area of a square. Now, what they want me to tell you for the area of a square over here is that area is side squared, which is fine. But you know me, I really dislike having to name, well, I guess I can keep the S there. But I more like to think of it as a base times height situation, or maybe even a length times width situation. So I would be happy with side squared. I would really like to have base times height be our go-to, but I think when we were kids we learned it as length times width. But this base times height is really the one I want to focus on. The reason I like base times height is because that's what we're going to use in everything else. Everything else talks about base and height, not length and width. That's kind of just a thing that they use for rectangles. So every rectangle is going to be base times height, or length times width. Little base is length of base, little b. Next unit, when we get to volume, we're going to have a capital B, and that's going to mean area of base, and then everything is just going to get, more annoying. And then H is your height. Lovely. All right, now, we know that a rectangle is just a special type of parallelogram. So the area of a parallelogram is still base times height. But the important thing to remember is that your height needs to be perpendicular. I'll write that in words. Has to be perpendicular to the base. You have to have that right angle. Peanut, what are you getting at? Stop it. Come here. So it needs to be perpendicular to the base. And then your base is going to be this entire length right here. And your height is always perpendicular to it. Fantastic. All right, now, area of a triangle. Some people love rocking that 1/2 base times height. Or you might be a base times height divided by 2 kind of person. I'm happy with any of that. So, one more time, remember that your height always needs to be perpendicular to your base. Come on, Peanut. Sorry. Height is always perpendicular to your base. Height is always perpendicular to your base. So sometimes it can be kind of difficult to find out what your height is. The area of a trapezoid. So you might want to chop this up and, look at this as 2 triangles and a rectangle. But the formula for this guy, we have 2 bases. Base 1 and base 2. Those are the 2 parallel sides. Your parallel sides are your bases. And then your height is going to be the distance between those 2 bases. And it's going to be perpendicular to both of them. So the way we're going to be able to find the area of that guy is going to be base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2. Or 1/2 all of that junk. And then areas of quadrilaterals with perpendicular diagonals. So if you're given diagonals, here's what you can do. And here's some examples of quadrilaterals with perpendicular diagonals. A rhombus. So if you remember when we learned about rhombi, they had nice little diagonals here that made right angles. So there's rhombus. There's also a kite. Kites have perpendicular diagonals. So a kite is exactly how you would imagine it to be. It looks like your classic gonna go fly it up in a park sort of kite. Those have right angles. And then squares as well. Those guys, squares. Their diagonals are perpendicular as well. So those are examples of things that you can use this with if they gave you your diagonals and you didn't want to have to deal with other things. So we're going to call this distance right here from the top vertice to the bottom vertice as D1 for diagonal 1. And then from the left vertice to the right vertice, or vertex, I should be saying vertex, not vertice, is your other diagonal. So then your area is just going to be diagonal 1 times diagonal 2 divided by 2. All right. And then the area of a circle, this would be the apple pie R2, which is it just hurts me to think about the grammar. Anyways, area is going to be pi times the radius squared. And a lot of times I don't multiply through with the pi. I just keep it as, I just square the radius and slap a pi on the end. So here we go. We want to find the area and perimeter or circumference of each figure. So I'm going to draw myself a line here to keep myself sectioned off. Okay, that's nice. There we go. All right. So this right here is a parallelogram. So to find the area, that's going to be the base times the height. So area equals, my base is this guy right here. So that's going to be 6. Times my height. Remember, my height is always what is perpendicular to my base. So look, it even makes a little H right there, perpendicular to your base. So my height is going to be 4. So that's 6 meters times 4 meters, right? So then I get 24, and when I have meters times meters, I get meters squared. So that's why area is meters squared, is because when you multiply those units together, you're going to get meters squared. All right, fantastic. Now when I'm talking about perimeter, remember, that's when I have to add up all the sides. So I'm tracing around the edges. This length is going to be 6. This length is 7. This length is 6. This length over here is 7. Remember that 4 is just the height. It's not one of the lengths of the sides. So you shouldn't use it to find the perimeter. So what you're going to do is you're going to have 6 plus 7 plus 6 plus 7. And when you add those guys all together, you're going to end up with 26 meters. All right, now we have a nice little rhombus rocking over here. So as you can see, I have one diagonal. That is 6 millimeters. So that can be my diagonal 1, or it could be your diagonal 2. It really doesn't matter. And then I have my other diagonal here, and you notice they're perpendicular. So this is my diagonal 2. So to find the area of this rhombus, I'm going to have diagonal 1 times diagonal 2 divided by 2. Let's plug these guys on in. 8 times 6 divided by 2. So 8 times 6 is 48. So I got 48 divided by 2. So that's going to give me 24. So that'll be 24 millimeters squared. Oh golly, I used up all my room on the area. Well, it shouldn't be too hard to find the perimeter. So the perimeter here, we can see that one of my sides is 5 and all the other sides are also marked congruent. So all of these guys are 5. So when I find my perimeter, I've got 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, or 4 times 5, which is 20. It'll be 20 millimeters. Okay, now we got this circle. Now, it's important to identify, as soon as you get a circle, what the heck is it that they gave us. This thing right here, since it goes through the center, and it goes all the way across my circle, that is my diameter. So if I want to find the area, remember that is pi times the radius squared, right? So you need to go through and find the radius first. So remember, the radius is half the length of the diameter. So if my diameter is 12, my radius is 6. So I've got pi times 6 squared. 6 squared is 36. So I'm happy with 36 pi centimeters squared. If you really wanted to find out what that is as a decimal, let me find my pi button real quick. There it is. That's going to end up being 113.1-ish centimeters. So I guess you put approximately, shouldn't I? Okay. Now let's talk about circumference. Circumference is, remember, the circle's fancy word for perimeter. So for circumference, we can use pi times the diameter. So if I do pi times the diameter, my diameter is 12, so I have 12 pi centimeters. Or I can do 2 times pi times the radius, 2 pi r, and I would still get 2 times pi times 6, which would give me 12 pi centimeters. So either way, you're fine. And then if you wanted to know what that was as a decimal, let's see, 37.7 centimeters would be the distance around that circle. Okay. Here we go. So now we're going to find out whatever the missing part is. So over here we have a triangle. So remember, our area of a triangle is going to be base times height divided by 2. So what we can do is we can plug in what we know. We know what our area is. That's 12. 12 inches squared. So I'm going to put 12 in for my area. Equals. And then this distance right here that they gave me is definitely my base. So I'm going to put that in for B. So I've got an 8 right here. The height is what we're trying to find. So I'm going to leave that in. Over 2. And now all it is just doing a little bit of algebra, solving that equation. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. Those 2's divide away, so I just have 8h over here. 2 times 12 is 24. Divide by 8 on both sides, and I'm going to end up with 3 equals h. Oh, you know what would have been even easier? Just throwing this out there. You can ignore me. You can skip ahead. It's fine. We could have just as easily said, okay, 8 divided by 2 is 4, and have 4h equals 12. So then h equals 3. So that's another way to solve it. Huh. Okay, just throwing it out there. Okay. Now let's look at this. Okay, I'm going to put a line here to keep myself organized. There we go. Okay, so this is a parallelogram. So I've got my area. Okay, so area of a parallelogram is base times height. So I'm going to take what I know, that area, put it in for A. Raz! Dang cats. So I have 144 equals. Do I have my base? It's this guy right here. So I've got 16 in for my base. And then my height, I don't know. So h is what I'm trying to solve for. So to solve for h, I'm going to have to take 144 divided by 16. And we're going to get h equals 9. So that'll be 9 inches. Did I put my units on the last one? I did not. Those should be inches. 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 There we go. All right. Ooh, we got ourselves a trapezoid. Ooh, okay. I'm excited. So, remember, formula for a trapezoid. Area equals base 1 plus base 2 times your height divided by 2. So now we're just going to shove in everything that we know. Area is 56 centimeters squared. All right, 56 in for that area it is. Equals over 2. Let's see. One of my bases is B. One of my bases is 8. So let's pack those guys in. So I'm going to end up with B plus 8. And then right here, they gave me my height is 4. I'll have 4 right here. Okay. So we can always multiply by 2 and start working it from there. One other thing that we can do, let's take 4 divided by 2 right here. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we have 2 times b plus 8. So then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and distribute the 2. I have 56 equals 2b plus 16. Then I'll have to subtract 16 on both sides. And I'll get 40 equals 2b. Divide by 2 on both sides. And b equals 20. So that bottom base is going to be 20 centimeters. All right. Now, it's not quite geometry until we start throwing in words. So, a triangle has an area of 27 square yards. Okay, so we know A equals 27. Okay. The length of the height is 6 yards. So now we know H equals 6. Okay. Find the length of the base. So base is what we're trying to find. Okay. So we have the area of a triangle. Beautiful. So area equals base times height divided by 2. Now we'll fill in what we know. They told me that the area is 27, so I'll put 27 in for area equals. I don't know what my base is. That's what I'm trying to find. They told me my height was 6. Yeah. And then I'm dividing by 2. All right. So then what I'm going to do to solve this guy, I can multiply by 2 on both sides. So I can get 54 equals 6b. So b equals 9, and that'll be 9 yards. Or, another way to solve it, so when we had, what was it, 27 equals base times 6 over 2. Okay, so another way to solve this is to take 6 divided by 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I have 27 equals 3b. Divide by 3 on both sides, so b equals 9 yards. So it's just another way to solve it, just throwing it out there. Whatever makes you feel most comfortable, I'm happy. All right, now we got another trapezoid one. So a trapezoid has an area of 60 square feet. So they just told me that I have area equals 60. The lengths of the bases are 6 and 9 feet. Okay, so one of the bases is 6 feet. One of the other bases is 9 feet. Okay, great. Find the length of the height. So height is our question mark right now. Okay, so remember our formula for a trapezoid, area equals base 1 plus base 2 times the height, all of that divided by 2. So there's my area. I'm going to put that in for, or 60 in for my area, equals, hi Peanut, and then I've got my bases over here that I'm going to go ahead and plug in. 6 plus let's see, 9. And then I don't know my height, so we'll just go ahead and start solving from here. So, let's go ahead and just add those things together on top. So I've got 60 equals 15h over 2. So you can multiply by 2 on both sides. Or at least that's what I would do. Because otherwise you're going to get 7.5 and that's gross. So I've got 120 equals 15h. Meow, I know. What is 120 divided by 15? Do you know, Peanut? Do you know? 120 divided by 15 is 8. There we go. So my height is equal to 8. Yes, go kitten. Okay, and that'll be feet. Cool. All right, so we're going to look at coordinate area tomorrow, and then I'll give you some homework after that. So, I hope this was a nice little refresher on all of that, and I will see you later, or I'm seeing you right now, and this is creepy. Okay.